In quiet neighborhoods, power goes wrong.
The sirens were screaming. Red and blue lights reflected off every window on our street. But the ambulance wasn't moving. Not because of traffic. Not because of an accident. It had stopped because one woman decided her HOA rules mattered more than my daughter's life. Inside that ambulance, my disabled daughter was slipping away. And the woman blocking it? She stood there with a clipboard, shaking her head like she was correcting a parking violation. She had no idea who I was. And she had no idea she was about to destroy her own life. We moved into that neighborhood because it was supposed to be peaceful. Clean streets. Quiet evenings. Safe place for a child with medical needs. My daughter, Emily, was 11 years old. She was born with a severe heart condition that limited her movement and required constant care. Some days she felt strong. Other days, even walking across the room exhausted her. But she was happy. She loved books. She loved music. She loved sitting on the porch in the evening, waving at neighbors as they passed. Most neighbors waved back. Except Karen Miller. Karen was the head of the HOA. She wasn't elected because people respected her. She was elected because people were tired of arguing with her. She enforced rules like a dictator. Trash cans. Paint colors. Parking lines. Visitor passes. And she especially hated anything that looked out of place. Including my daughter's medical equipment. Karen had complained before. She complained about the ramp we installed for Emily's wheelchair. She complained about the home nurse parking too long. She once sent us a written warning because Emily's heart monitor could be heard from the sidewalk. I tried to reason with her. My daughter is disabled, I said calmly. She needs this equipment to stay alive. Karen smiled thinly. I understand, she said. But rules are rules. That sentence would come back to haunt her. It happened on a quiet afternoon. Emily was doing homework at the kitchen table. I was nearby, answering emails. Everything seemed normal. Then I heard it. The monitor. A sharp, unnatural alarm that froze my blood. Emily grabbed her chest. Her face went pale. Dad, she whispered. I can't breathe. I rushed to her side. Her pulse was erratic. Her breathing shallow. I called 911 with shaking hands. My daughter has a heart condition, I told the dispatcher. She's collapsing. Ambulance is on the way, the dispatcher replied. Stay with her. I stayed. I held her hand. I prayed. Within minutes, we heard sirens. Relief washed over me. They're here, I told Emily. You're going to be okay. I carried her outside so the paramedics could reach her faster. The ambulance turned onto our street. Lights flashing. Sirens loud. And then it stopped. Completely. I looked up, confused. That's when I saw her. Karen. Standing directly in front of the ambulance. Karen stood with her arms crossed, clipboard tucked against her chest like a shield. The paramedic leaned out of the window. Ma'am, move. Medical emergency. Karen shook her head. You can't park there, she said loudly. That's a restricted access lane under HOA regulation. My daughter is dying. I shouted. Karen glanced at Emily, then back at the paramedic. You should have used the designated emergency entrance, she replied coldly. This is not authorized. The siren continued screaming. The seconds kept ticking. The paramedics stepped out of the ambulance. Ma'am, please move, one of them said firmly. Karen stepped closer to the front of the vehicle. If you don't comply with HOA protocol, I will file an official violation, she snapped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She's having a heart attack. I yelled. Karen sighed, visibly annoyed. Sir, yelling won't change the rules. Inside the ambulance, Emily's monitor let out a long, terrifying tone. One of the paramedics swore under his breath. She's crashing, he said. They tried to push past Karen. She refused. Neighbors gathered. Someone started recording. A woman begged Karen to move. Karen didn't care. This is not my responsibility, she said. Then Emily's heart stopped. Right there. In front of all of us. The paramedics had to begin emergency procedures in the street. I dropped to my knees. This can't be happening, I whispered. Karen stood there, watching. Finally, police sirens joined the chaos. Karen smiled. Good, she said. They'll enforce the rules. The first officer stepped out of his car. He looked at Emily. Then at me. Then back at Karen. Ma'am, he said slowly. Move. Now. Karen started to argue. I'm the HOA president. The officer cut her off. I don't care. She refused again. That's when I stood up. I looked her straight in the eyes. And I spoke calmly. My name is Daniel Carter, I said. I am the district attorney of this county. Karen froze. The officer's expression changed instantly. Sir, he said quietly. We'll handle this. Karen's clipboard slipped from her hands. The moment Karen was pulled away from the front of the ambulance, everything moved fast, too fast and not fast enough at the same time. The paramedics slammed the doors shut. The siren screamed louder than before. The ambulance sped away. I jumped into my car and followed, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. Inside that ambulance, my daughter was fighting for her life because someone thought authority mattered more than humanity. Every red light felt like betrayal. Every second felt stolen. I replayed Karen's words in my head over and over again. Rules are rules. Those 3 words echoed louder than the siren. When I finally reached the hospital, doctors were already running Emily down the hallway. I tried to follow, but a nurse stopped me. Sir, you need to wait. She's my daughter, I said. She has a heart condition. She lost oxygen. The nurse nodded. We know. We're doing everything we can. Then the doors closed. And I was left alone. I sat in that waiting room staring at the floor. For the first time in years, I wasn't a district attorney. I wasn't someone with power. I was just a father who might lose his child. Minutes passed. Then hours. Finally, a doctor approached me. Mr. Carter, he said gently. Your daughter is alive. I exhaled for the first time since the siren stopped. But, he continued, the delay caused significant stress on her heart. She'll need long-term care. This could have been prevented. I clenched my fists. I know, I said quietly. I know exactly why it happened. While Emily was stabilized, events unfolded back at the neighborhood faster than Karen could have imagined. Police had already taken statements. Multiple neighbors provided video footage. One video clearly showed Karen standing in front of the ambulance, refusing to move, arguing about HOA rules while paramedics pleaded with her. Another video captured the moment Emily collapsed further. The evidence was undeniable. Karen was placed under arrest. Not politely. Not gently. She screamed. This is harassment. I have authority. You can't do this to me. The officer looked at her and said calmly. You stopped emergency medical services. That's a felony. Her face went pale. At the station, Karen still believed she could talk her way out. She demanded lawyers. She demanded phone calls. She demanded respect. But the facts didn't care about her demands. When detectives showed her the videos, her confidence cracked. I was just enforcing rules, she said weakly. The detective leaned forward. Ma'am, rules don't override federal and state emergency access laws. She swallowed hard. People die when ambulances are delayed, he continued. You knew that. Karen said nothing. By morning, the case exploded. Local news picked it up. Then national media. Headlines spread everywhere. HOA president blocks ambulance, child suffers heart attack. Reporters camped outside the neighborhood. Lawyers began reviewing HOA policies. What they found was disturbing. Karen had repeatedly ignored emergency access laws. She had fined residents for calling emergency services without HOA approval. She had created illegal restrictions that violated state and federal statutes. And people had been too afraid to challenge her. Until now. I didn't prosecute the case myself. I couldn't. But I made one thing very clear publicly. This isn't about revenge, I said at a press conference. This is about accountability. I looked directly into the cameras. No private organization has the right to endanger a life. Karen watched that press conference from a holding cell. She finally understood something important. She wasn't in control anymore. Back at the hospital, Emily slowly regained consciousness. She squeezed my hand weakly. Dad, she whispered. Did I do something wrong? That question broke me. No, I said immediately. You did nothing wrong. None of this is your fault. She nodded slowly, trusting me the way only a child can. I promised her something then. I won't let this happen again, I said. To you or to anyone else. Karen was officially charged with obstruction of emergency medical services, criminal negligence, reckless endangerment, abuse of authority. Each charge carried serious prison time. Her lawyer attempted damage control. She didn't intend harm, he argued. The prosecutor responded coldly. Intent doesn't erase consequences. Within days, the HOA board resigned. Every member. They claimed ignorance. The state didn't care. Investigators froze HOA accounts. Fines were suspended. Residents finally spoke openly about years of abuse and intimidation. Karen had ruled through fear. Fear finally turned into testimony. In a recorded jail call, Karen said something that would later be used against her. I was just doing my job. Her own lawyer sighed. That wasn't your job, he said. And now it's my problem. The courthouse was silent in a way that felt heavy. Not respectful. Not calm. Heavy. Karen sat at the defense table wearing a gray suit that looked borrowed. No clipboard. No authority. No smug smile. Just fear. She avoided looking at the gallery because she knew who was sitting there. Parents. Paramedics. Neighbors. And me. Not as the district attorney. Not as a public figure. But as a father. The prosecutor stood. This case, she said, is about what happens when power is mistaken for permission. She played the video. The courtroom heard the siren. Saw Karen step in front of the ambulance. Heard the paramedic say, "We have a child in cardiac distress." Then they heard Karen's voice. Rules are rules. Several jurors flinched. The defense tried to soften it. She was overwhelmed, they said. She believed she was enforcing policy. The prosecutor replied calmly. Policy doesn't outrank the right to live. One paramedic took the stand. I've been doing this for 14 years, he said. I've never been blocked like that. He paused. That child lost oxygen because we couldn't move. Another paramedic testified. She went into cardiac arrest. Right there. If we had arrived 30 seconds earlier, it might not have happened. Karen stared at the table. I wasn't there as the district attorney. I testified as Emily's father. She asked me if she did something wrong, I said, my voice steady but quiet. No child should ever ask that. I looked directly at Karen. You didn't just block an ambulance, I said. You broke something in my daughter that will never fully heal. The courtroom was silent. Karen's lawyer tried one last angle. She didn't know the child's condition, he said. The prosecutor held up an email. Exhibit 42, she said. HOA complaint sent by Ms. Miller about medical equipment noise, signed 2 weeks before the incident. Karen knew. She always knew. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, no one looked surprised. On all counts, the foreperson said, we find the defendant guilty. Karen's shoulders collapsed. Her lawyer closed his eyes. The judge removed his glasses. This was not a mistake, the judge said. This was arrogance. He sentenced Karen to prison time, permanent removal from any HOA leadership role, lifetime ban from managing residential associations, civil damages exceeding 7 figures. Then he said the words that echoed across the courtroom. No rule is worth a human life. The HOA was dissolved. Emergency access laws were reinforced statewide. Training was mandated for all private community boards. Karen became a case study in law schools. A warning. Emily came home months later. She moved slower. She tired faster. But she was alive. One evening, she asked me something I'll never forget. Dad, she said, are ambulances allowed everywhere now? I smiled softly. Yes, I said. They are. She nodded, satisfied. This story was never about revenge. It was about responsibility. About remembering that authority without compassion becomes cruelty. And that no clipboard, no title, no rulebook will ever be stronger than the law or stronger than love.